ranch dressing, and spill it. The first time I heard someone say that, it caught me by surprise and took me a second to understand what he meant. The restaurant we were in would bring your selected salad dressing to the table in small plastic containers. He didn't want a small quantity on the side, he wanted a lot, and wanted it directly on his salad. Once I realized what he meant, it wasn't surprising at all. He was a man who lived a large life without limitations. So why should he accept the restaurant's silly salad dressing on the side limitations? Do we think of life and God's spiritual provisions with a spill it mentality, or are we restrained by the world's artificial or our own self-imposed limitations? Do we expect and only accept his provisions for us to come in limited amounts held in small containers? Or do we reach for and revel in his offer to spill it in our lives? This Saturday's in the Psalms edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary looks to Psalm 23, where David let us know he had a spill it mindset. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Psalm 23:5. Despite leaving the pasture for the palace, David was ever mindful of who was the source of his abundance. Having been a shepherd living alone with the sheep in the pasture, he knew God was his ever watchful shepherd. Having become a king living safely in a huge palace, David still knew God had provided his abundance and was grateful. 2 Samuel 7 verses 1 and 2. God has provided an amazing spiritual feast for those who will rely on him in simple, obedient trust. Jesus came that they, his faithful sheep, may have life and have it abundantly. John 10 verse 10. Paul says God has given us every spiritual blessing in Christ. Ephesians 1 verse 3. Do we live life large because of complete trusting faith in him who promised an abundant table and overflowing cup? Or do we live small lives, afraid of a world that tells us not to overdo it? Folks, just spill it. To do so will completely reshape how we approach this world and how we live out our days. Of course, this has nothing to do with how much physical food we eat and everything to do with how much spiritual food we consume. Let's start thinking like David and luxuriate in God's spiritual bounty, instead of living in fear of overdoing it and just nibbling at a spiritual life that tastes like a dry salad without dressing. Today is the day to say, spill it. Thank you for watching today's Saturdays in the Psalms edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary. Until next time, this is James McClenny helping you have a great day.